The next session is going to be about hearing stories of fearlessness. And when we talk about fearlessness, we usually think about the young people who are associated with that. Well, this panel happens to be, we're going to hear stories from amazing young leaders. They're young, but they're so talented. And I think there's so much that we can learn from them. We're going to hear about them taking risks, them talking about their journey and how it felt from the inside when they had to make those decisions to get to where they are today. We hope that helps you approach your own journey and think about the things you're doing and how does it feels for you when you are taking risks. I think that we have the panelists already here. Let me check with my team. If we do, I think they're already getting in. But in the meantime, also remember that you're going to be able to see all the bios. We have a link down here that you can check so you can understand more of their journey, where they come from. Also to see, like, if you want to connect with them on social media, and you can follow them. You can read the bio and then decide who you want to follow, who you want to interact with. We're so happy that you're here. This is the second day of the Female Founders Alliance Summit, and we're having a great time. We hope that you are too. We have so much still planned for today. So I want to check with the team so I can start introducing them, or not at the moment, not yet. Another thing I want to remind you is that through the day, if you miss like one of the presentations, you can always go back in the app. You will have the opportunity to check what just passed. You have through the end of the year to do that, to check everything you need to check. So don't worry if you miss something, just go back to the app and you can find the content over there. So now I think we're ready to do this panel. We're going to hear from these fearlessness leaders, or we're going to hear about their journeys and see how they approach when they have fear, but they have the passion and they're ready to do things. So we're going to welcome now Akilah Releford, the founder and CEO of Mary Louise Cosmetics. She's here with us today. Also with us, joining us on this panel is Hyla Nayeri, the founder of 437. Thanks for being here too. Also with us, joining us is Paris Chandler, the founder and CEO of Black Tech Pipeline. And moderating this panel is TechCrunch reporter Natasha Mascarenhas. So please, a big welcome to all of them. Thank you for joining us. We are so excited to hear from you and to learn from all of you and your amazing journeys. I think we're ready. Enjoy.
Thank you so much for that really fun intro. And let me just say, even though we're through a screen, the programming has been super inspirational so far. And just from prepping on this panel, I think all three of our panelists today are ready to bring it and be super transparent about what it took. So yeah, I want to kind of jump right in. Our topic is about fearlessness. All three entrepreneurs here have spent a lot of time honing in on what fearlessness means to them and actually acting on it. So I wanted to start with what I guess I would say is probably the first step into being a fearless person, which is choosing to start a company in the first place. There are so many people and so many statistics out there that tell everyone on this call and basically that the odds are against us. So I would love to start with Akilah and kind of understand a little bit about how you got the confidence to see yourself in entrepreneurship, not just as someone who is interested in it, but actually a participant.
It took me a while to see myself as an entrepreneur. It took some confidence to introduce myself as the founder of Mary Louise Cosmetics. Entrepreneurship, something that I think a lot of entrepreneurship founders have to overcome, with that sense of imposter syndrome. But I think that the support from friends and family really does play a huge part in feeling comfortable in your own skin, even if that's just having your family help you just recite things or pitch your company. It just builds up confidence. So I would say anytime you can pitch or talk about it to anyone that you're comfortable with will help build up to other people. So not something that I was normally comfortable with early on, but social media are great to stepping into that role.
Yeah, I think Community is a theme we'll definitely get to today. Hyla, I want to bring you in too and understand a little bit about, seeing yourself in entrepreneurship and choosing to enter a really crowded market of products, which is swimwear.
Yeah, hi. It was really scary. I remember when we launched about, I think we had about a soft launch about 4 years ago, because when you're launching to nobody, it's kind of, it's kind of like a soft launch, and then eventually you have an audience and a community. But it was really scary. I remember I was in university, I was in business school, and the school I went to was very much, you know, attractive to kind of go into marketing, accounting, consulting, and those sort of kind of traditional paths. And so, 4 years ago, something like an e-commerce startup or fashion or the hybrid of one wasn't anything that our peers were doing. None of our professors were talking about. No recruiters on campus were, kind of talking about that sort of path. And I remember when my business partner, Adrian, and I wanted to launch 437, and we told a few peers about it, it wasn't really met with support. It was more so met with, oh, like, that's a cool experience. Like, it's going to look so good on your resume when you apply for a real job. Or, girls like teasing me and coming up to my boyfriend at the time and being like, oh, like, your girlfriend's like Miss Entrepreneur, when I literally just posted on Facebook one time about it so far. And, being met with like teasing and embarrassment and, discouraging comments, when really I feel like when someone is launching a business, like you said, being fearless is so important, but it's also difficult because you're not really met with that support and that community of, people lifting each other up, especially women lifting other women up. And so it was very scary, but I think that fearlessness and that, you guys can go make fun of me, you guys can go say it's going to look better on my resume, but I'm going to go ahead and prove everyone wrong. And that's not really what fueled me. I think what fueled me was just let me, break into something and make something of myself and solve a problem in the market that I see. But it definitely does fuel you, and you have to just, be fearless when you're starting.
Yeah, I feel so mixed sometimes about, like, I think we all get chips on our shoulders from critique and pushback, especially when you're doing something that people don't think you can do. And I'm always unsure if I should be leaning into that and letting that be the reason, or if, and kind of like lean on the fake it till you make it sort of ideology. And Hyla, I'd be curious to hear kind of your direct response to that. Like, when you were starting, was it more like, I'm going to ignore it and fake it till I make it? Or was it like, I actually know what I'm going to do from day one and I'll execute on it?
Definitely the first, fake it till I made it. Like, I think to a certain degree, the faking it is good. It's kind of like that blind optimism that, hey, we're doing this, we're launching this, even though we have no idea what's happening. But then, of course, internally, you're like checking in with yourself and you're like, okay, I actually have no clue what I'm doing. Let me set realistic expectations. So it's not like I'm going to give up everything or give up my, part-time job or whatever, because 1000% this is working out when I don't even have one customer yet. But I think it's more of that, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it work, but I'm also going to be smart and make sure I'm looking out for myself in all ways, and I'm supporting myself and just keeping an eye out.
Paris, you went from an esthetician to a front-end developer to an entrepreneur with so many accolades and successes to your name. Tell me a little bit about how you got from job to job and mission to mission. Like, what were mantras you used or ways that you saw yourself in the next opportunity?
Yeah, so I kind of always had this big dream, and I knew that for me, it wasn't going to be a straight path to like achieve that dream. So for me, I was always leveraging my backup plans to get to the next one. And so that's what led me. I wanted to be an actress. It wasn't working out. So I decided I'll become a makeup artist, because makeup artists have to be on sets of movies. That's another way to kind of gain a network. And so that's sort of what I did. And then I landed into tech, because for me, I was like, I really want to gain like financial stability and also be able to achieve my dreams. And then when I landed into the tech industry, that's when this opportunity came about where I can, create this community and give opportunity to my community members. And so that's really what I did. And I don't want to say it like deterred me from my like big goal, but this is what's working right now. And so this is what I'm focusing on. And so for me, it's just kind of always leveraging my backup plan, but also being open to taking a different route, because that doesn't mean I'm going to kind of forget like what my actual goal is. But I want to, if something's working out for me, I want to continue with it and see where it takes me.
And you're in the business right now of helping people see themselves in tech and break through quote unquote non-existent pipeline issues, if I'm fair. So what would you say is like the biggest hurdle or shared question mark people have before jumping into a career in tech and being fearless in that way?
I want to say like, at least for me, it's like, do I belong here? Am I good enough? What makes me qualified? Like a lot of imposter syndrome questions.
Okay.
And then there are even like, other people who are kind of also questioning your value, questioning your potential and why you deserve to be here. So those are like a lot of hurdles I had. And, what makes you qualified? What experience do you have? Why are you here? Are you here for the passion? Are you here for the money? And it's like, it doesn't matter. If I have my goal and this is why I want to be here, I'm going to do these things to get in there and kind of succeed in this area. And so that's something, I still deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something that ever kind of goes away, but I don't think it's something that should push you out either. I think, feeling imposter syndrome is extremely normal, but don't let it push you over the edge and make you feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to, achieve this certain dream. You should, regardless of your reasoning, go for it.
I love that. I think, obviously for you three, that resulted in starting companies and starting movements in a way. But for people who either aren't there yet or want to take smaller steps even later today or in the near future to be more fearless in their jobs and in their lives, like what are some small ways that you kind of started honing in on being a more fearless person and just kind of being a more confident person? Akilah, I would love to start with you.
I think that especially as a founder, you're always going to be a cheerleader. And so a lot of the times you're going to be the only person there to pat yourself on the back when amazing things happen. And that's fine. I think that builds a lot more confidence within oneself than having others do it sometimes for you. So I think anything from just having a great mindset and approach to whatever you're working on is a great way to stay grounded and build confidence. Whether that, for me, that's personally a morning routine. My morning routine carries me through the rest of the day. So, as we all know, as an entrepreneur, every day is completely different. And when you get stuck in low points, it can feel like you'll never get out. So I think that having some type of normalcy or routine in your day will really help to build up confidence as well, and kind of give a sense of this is a new day, everything's fine. I'm able to enjoy my small cup of coffee, I'm able to journal, work out, and it really does bring more peace into kind of like the hectic storm that is entrepreneurship.
Paris, what would you kind of add to that? Is it for you, is it more going the scheduling route, or what are some other small steps?
Ooh, for me, I'm actually really bad at scheduling. I kind of just do what I can when I can get to it. I'm not the most organized person. So for me, I think it's hard. Kind of like, I guess like for me as an entrepreneur, because I'm a first-time entrepreneur, I do a lot of things where I watch like YouTubers who are also entrepreneurs and they tell me about like their morning routines and things like that. And it's something I try to do. And then it kind of never worked out. I always kind of I do best the way I do best. But I kind of tried to implement a routine and kind of tried to be like other people. And I was like, all right, it's not working for me. Let me just continue as I have. So kind of just do what works for you, but also trying out new things. Don't be afraid to, like, if you think you should get on a schedule, if you think you should do this or that, that'll create a better self-care routine for you or help you work better, try it. If it doesn't work, that's totally fine. Don't force yourself to do it, because that's kind of extra, that's added work to your plate because you have to think about it. So just do what works best for you.
Hyla, I would love to know, when you were first building your company 437, were there any small hacky ways you began to practice using your voice loudly or pushing back against some of the critique? What are some of like the ways you began chipping at that chip?
It was kind of just always putting myself outside of my comfort zone. I think that it's so comfortable to be inside of it, but I think that I made it a point that at the beginning of my career with launching 437, I wanted to purposely go and put myself in situations that are going to be tough, that are going to make me grow, that are going to, that a lot of people in my scenario wouldn't have done. I moved to LA for a good chunk of time, and I literally sold my car in Toronto and used that money to go out there because I knew I just knew it would be important to build a network that I just didn't have access to here. And there was opportunities where, we got our first influencer placement, which didn't happen just by me, DMing someone and getting an address. It was me, spending the last of my money, $40 to take a Uber so far out of the city to a meet and greet, and standing in line with a bunch of like 18-year-olds and gifting a major influencer who was doing something like that. And so those moments of, I remember calling my co-founder before and being like, oh, if I give her the suit, she's not going to wear it. She's going to lose it. I mean, she has so many bathing suits, like blah, blah, blah. Like those moments of doubt, those moments of, just rethinking it and just being like, oh, it's so much more comfortable to not go, to, just do what everyone else is doing and just sending an email out. And I think that at the beginning, and even now, you have to really push yourself out of your comfort zone, because if you keep doing what everyone else is doing, you're not going to see that sort of result that, is really going to propel you and your company. So you got to just bite the bullet and take risks at the beginning and throughout your journey.
The interesting theme I'm kind of getting from this panel so far is that the first and big steps and small steps of being a more confident person doesn't really have anything to do with venture funding, any of like the flashy things we learn to associate with starting a company. It's really like you, and that can be both really empowering or intimidating to some people, but at least it's something we already all have, which is our sense of self. So that to me is really inspiring and just kind of struck me from the top. But before we kind of get into some audience Q&A and more tactical questions, I did want to ask kind of a counterintuitive question, which is the difference between being a fearless person and being someone who's overconfident and not good for asking for help. I feel like it's a fine line, and I would love to know how each of you figured out when it was time to ask for help or when it was time to stick to your gut, either through an anecdote or through a mentor that kind of told you what's up. So Paris, I would love to start with you, and then Akilah and Hyla.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like when you're overconfident, you tend to do everything and not ask for help because you're overconfident and you think you can achieve everything, which I'm not saying you can't, but we're humans. We're not good at everything. It's good to ask for help in areas that we are not experienced in, and get knowledge from someone else who maybe is an expert in that area. And that's something that I learned as an entrepreneur. And for me, I like to do things myself first before I ask for help, because I just want to see how good I am at it, where I'm lacking, because that allows me to get the proper help and ask the proper questions instead of just like either not trying it and being like, hey, can you do this? Instead of like me really seeing what it takes to accomplish it. So for me, it's like, try it yourself first. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to say, wow, me as an entrepreneur, even though I run this business, I am not good in these areas. Let me hire someone to help me with that. Let me hire someone to do it for me instead. It's okay to recognize where you're just not good at it and need someone else to do it. That doesn't make you like a bad entrepreneur or less valuable. I think it makes you like a really strong person and extra valuable.
I also think that we developed a personal attachment to our business where taken off to someone, even in the small way, can be really scary. But because we created these businesses, we can't do everything ourselves, because if we do, it will ultimately slow down the growth of our business, and kind of create a plateau for our growth. I think that knowing your strengths, I've learned along the years that I'm good at creative. I'm not CFO. I'm not good at like administrative tasks, and I hate doing them. So I think that really feeling comfortable and identifying where you fit in your own business is super important. But I think it can take time to develop, because your boutique from the ground up, your marketing, your CFO, your content creation, you're the photographer, your sales team. So I think that you take on so many roles because you have to. But to that point, once you grow, I think it's really important to identify what can I give away to people who are really good at this and much better than I am, and how can I contribute to my business with my personal strengths moving forward.
Hyla, maybe you can answer and kind of integrate an anecdote too, just to kind of help people visualize the idea of understanding your strengths and weaknesses. How do you kind of get that kind of self-awareness?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what Akilah and Paris said. Just for me, I truly believe in just like this, you have to love your business, and it's of course your baby, but you also have to be a lot unattached to it and the results at a certain point as well. And I find that, so it might not be an anecdote, but it's kind of like what I kind of live by, sort of just understanding that like I am not my business, and there's a lot of strength in that, because you need to be your own person, and your business just needs to be a part of you, just like your friends, just like your family, just like your health and then your mental health, and then your physical health, and then your whatever your relationship. So like it's just a part of you. And because I've learned that the hard way, actually, 437 is my everything, but when I was too attached, and it was my like who I was to my core, and 437's wins were my wins and 437's losses were my losses. It got to a point where when 437 like was in a really difficult place, so was my mental health, and so was everything around me. And so I've really learned that, if I were to go back in time, it's just remaining from the beginning that, hey, this is like this amazing part of my life, my career, but it is not 100% who I am. Like I have a full life journey ahead of me, and I'm just like along for the ride. So yeah.
Well said. I want to ask you a quick audience question from Paulavi, who asked, how important is it having a co-founder in your journey? After what you kind of just detailed, I feel like I know the answer, but would love to hear kind of your process.
I mean, everyone has their own opinion with the co-founder question. I personally, with 437 being my first business, being a first-time entrepreneur with 437, it was really great. It is really great having a business partner who's also my best friend. But just knowing that, hey, like I don't know what I'm doing, you don't know what you're doing, but together we will figure this thing out. And just I feel like even at the beginning, I don't know if I would have had the like just having a business partner has like someone else's skin in the game, and like you're not gonna like not work, you're not gonna not show up, because there's just someone else's livelihood, someone else who's waiting to get paid because they've been working 2 years for free in this startup also involved. So I love having a co-founder, and I would totally do that if I was starting a business as a first-time entrepreneur again.
Paris, you're also a first-time entrepreneur. I'm curious if you agree or disagree with the idea of having a co-founder being important.
It's actually really funny. So I don't have a co-founder. Starting Black Tech Pipeline, I was like, Black Tech Pipeline is my baby. And I'm still getting over this. I was scared that if I got a co-founder, they would somehow try to take it from me, take it over. We would have disagreements. And then I just had like all these negative thoughts. But now I'm starting to see the benefit in having a co-founder and having someone to bounce ideas off of and discuss the business with, and even take over. Like when you're not in a state where you can run your business for whatever reason, you have a co-founder to take that over for a little while. And then that doesn't mean they're taking it from you. You're partners, you work together, it's both of yours. So I think there's a lot of benefit in having a co-founder, even though I don't really have one. However, my fiance likes to call himself my co-founder. But no, I think having a co-founder is great. And yeah, just partnership. It's like super beneficial. So yeah.
Perfect. I want to end in the last few minutes here on talking about community. If you don't have a co-founder, at least you have a community, ideally both, if that's the way you want to roll. So I would love to give everyone listening some advice on how each of you have curated your community in a way that is authentic, but also is, not taking up your entire day either. There's like a lot of buzz around how to work with your community in a way that's not transactional. So would love to hear how community has played a role in your business building. Akilah, I would love to start with you.
Community building still varies is a huge important part of my company. And from the very beginning, I have always been at the forefront as far as kind of putting like a face to a name. So with sharing my personal skincare tutorials or doing demos with the products online, everyone always knew that this is my brand, and I feel like it's added to trust building and giving a sense of transparency and authenticity to our audience. So that's really helped me build the community. It's just being present, letting people know that they can message me and kind of create a friend relationship. And at the end of the day, I think that's what is something that doesn't seem so transactional. There's a lot of things always being thrown at customers to buy, and there really is, I think, a great opportunity to create like a founder customer relationship to help maintain that community.
Great. We only have 2 minutes, so I'll ask you guys to be really quick. What's kind of one thing you wish you knew when building a community, or kind of like a parting thought about community? Hyla, and then with Paris, would love for you to finish us off.
I guess my parting thought with that is just like keep investing in your community, and even if that's the beginning and there's $0 in the company and it's just online, it's through TikTok, it's through Instagram, it's like building the community, talk about your business, have people along on the journey, and then even as you grow and there's money, maybe it's in-person events, maybe it's getting to know people at conferences, I just think it's just something that cannot be overlooked in today's day and age.
For me, it's a little different. I actually built my business because I already had a community. So I built the business for them. And so I'm not charging my community members. I'm charging people to interact with our community members and give them opportunities. And I love just, constantly talking to my community online, on social media. That's like the perfect way because you get to talk to everyone at once and really engage with them. So, be active, engage with your community members, see what they're up to, retweet their successes, and, continue giving them opportunity through however you can. And for me, that's like through Twitter. So
yeah, I know. I wish we could have time to talk about social media, but everyone follow Hyla, Akilah, Paris on Twitter, and we can continue the conversation there. But that is all the time we have. Thank you all for joining and being super fearless in your jobs. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thank you so much to our amazing panelists. Again, Paris, Akilah, Hyla, and Natasha for being here, for opening up this conversation. This very a good conversation, because we heard about, being vulnerable, being clear about sometimes not knowing if we're taking the right path. That's good, to open up and to let others know that sometimes we all deal with that feeling of not feeling 100% of what we're doing, but still doing the job and showing up for yourself. A few things that stick with me, for example, what Hyla mentioned, from Paris mentioning flexibility to do things and then change things up if they're not working out for you or if they don't feel good to you. Akilah, about talking how you have to be your biggest cheerleaders. Sometimes people are not looking at what you're doing, or they don't care, but you do. You have to care about yourself. And Hyla, about when she said, I am not my business, it is part of me. I really loved that. And if you have any highlights, remember to share with your community using the FFA Summit hashtag on social media, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being here, for being part of this amazing community. And